Hey buddy, Crow here, and this is a video about the Retro VGS slash Coleco Chameleon. I wanted to, I wasn't going to really make another video on this, but since I had already made videos on it back in September, when the Indiegogo campaign started and when it ended prematurely, I was planning on maybe talking about it again when the Kickstarter came back up, when they came back up with it, because the concept of a cartridge-based system in this day and age genuinely interested me. From a collector standpoint, obviously this is not something that would have replaced the PS4 or the Xbox One or the Wii U. This was something additional, something that would have had adapters where you could plug in additional, cartridges that you already owned. You could have plugged in a Super Nintendo cartridge through an adapter, or even or anything really, anything cartridge based. I don't know about Nintendo 64, but I'd say at most Super Nintendo, and that interested me. But holy crap, the story on this thing has been so fascinating, and it's just genuinely baffling what has happened with this thing. And I know that people watching this have, a lot of people watching this already know what's going on. Some of you may not know. And I just want to start the story. This is from my point of view and from what I remember. If I get the details wrong, let me know. But this is just from what I remember, and this is just from start to the present day, because this story is not over. This story is going to continue. I don't know how much longer it can continue. From at this point now, I think the whole thing's just going to explode. It is just primed to explode. I think within the next either a few days or even a couple weeks. Something's going to happen. Something's going to explode. But with the way they're going with this thing, even after it explodes, I think they'll just keep going on with it. And I'll get to that. I just want to mention that if you're interested in updates, step-by-step updates, I would check out Picky Old Gamer or even Pat the NES Punk. And I know I've said this before, I'm not a big fan of Pat the NES Punk, but a lot of the stuff he's been saying about this Retro VGS slash Coleco Chameleon is pretty much dead on. And it was a video he put up yesterday that kind of was an incentive for me to want to put up another video and follow up. Because nobody should be supporting this. The Retro VGS or the Coleco Chameleon or anything in the future that just may happen to be in a Jaguar shell. And this pretty much starts a year ago. And this is going to be story time, because I'm not going to say anything that hasn't already been said. But this is really my own take on it. And I don't remember when I first heard about the Retro VGS, but odds are I probably heard about it from somebody on Facebook. And I got interested in it. Like I said earlier, the system interested me. And if it was going to be cheap, and if there were going to be, even if there weren't a whole lot of games for it, if there would have been like 5 to 10 games on it and that was it, it's a collector system. I thought that would have been pretty cool. Obviously, there are problems with the things that they were promising, like, Shovel Knight. Well, indie games. The problem is that if an indie game is released and it's on cartridge and the system has no internet, there's no way to do updates on the game, because that's what they do these days. Nobody really seems to finish a game and release it. Instead, it's updated for a while until the game is technically finished. So I was keeping my eye out for the system. I was looking at their Facebook page. I'm still liked to their Facebook page because I'm still interested in anything they have to say. But I won't believe a word of it. But so I was following their Facebook page. They announced, the Kickstarter date is going to be this date. They had their website I think it's still up. I haven't been there in forever. But there's no reason to go there. It's probably all filled with lies. If I seem jaded, I'm getting to that. It's just, if you don't know the story, it's just baffling. But anyway, around September is when they had the date saying, oh, we're going to have our Kickstarter starting on this date. Well, the week coming up to the Kickstarter, I had the money. I was like, yep, I'm getting ready. I'm going to fund this thing. I'm so ready to fund this thing. And all of a sudden, literally the day before the Kickstarter was supposed to come up, their website changed. All of a sudden, all the references to Kickstarter were gone, and it was replaced with Indiegogo. Oh, they're going with Indiegogo now. Well, that's weird. But I, was still going for it. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be good. I'm still looking forward to it. Don't know why they changed from Kickstarter to Indiegogo, but yeah, we'll go with it. And then their Indiegogo page went live, and that was when I made the first video. I had actually reviewed the page, and then I made a video, and I kind of had to look at it again, my own video, to remember. This video is posted September 20th, 2015. And the main thing I wanted to remember from this was, all of a sudden now they're asking for $299 for the early bird special. What was... See, I'm going to have to scroll through this video to see what the hell... Oh, there we go. Oh, Elite Backer version, $500. I think it was $349 for not the early bird special. What were they asking for? They were asking for $1,950,000, which seemed crazy for Kickstarter like this. Really, did they need almost $2 million? But what's interesting about that is that was not to create the full thing that was promised. If you had read the description, by the way, the whole layout of the whole Indiegogo page was not professionally done at all. The thing that really bothered me the most was the fact that they couldn't format the videos right on the page. So, and they were just full of non-information on the page. Usually when you look up a Kickstarter or whatever and they're asking for, X amount of money, they're saying, well, the reason we need X amount of money is because X amount is going to this. X amount is going to that. There was none of that breakdown here. It was simply that we needed almost $2 million, and honestly, and then they're like, well, if we wanted to do the full thing that this thing was supposed to do, we really need $4 million. But, if we get $2 million, we'll do half the product we promise. That's pretty much what they were laying out here. And at the end of that video, I said, you know what, I need to think about this, but I was 90% sure I still was going to fund it because it was still something that was appealing to me. And shortly after I made that video, a lot of people came out to me and mentioned that, hey, you need to check out this thread on Atari. It was Atari Leaf, actually, who came out to me flat out and said, look at this thread on Atari Age. And it was about, and I am not a forum person. I don't really, I've been on forums and stuff like that. They're good for when I'm searching for things, but I'm not the type of person that hangs out in forums. It's just not my thing. I try to do that and it just doesn't work out. But there was a specific thread that I kept following, and it was kind of asking questions all about this Indiegogo. Like, why do they need $2 million? And the biggest damning piece of evidence was a guy named Kevtris, who was working on the Retro VGS, and shortly after I think the Indiegogo went live, Mike Kennedy, who was in charge of this Retro VGS, or at least the guy that bought the Jaguar shells that the system is based off of, I don't know if it was him specifically or his team or whatever. Like I said, I don't have all the details, and I'm going off of what I remember. But Kevtris basically left the project because, from what I understand, they wanted him to do all the work for free. And the work he was doing was providing the programming, or at least the chipset, or at least the board something very crucial to the system, which was the FPGA, which is the Field Programmable Gate Array, something like that. Basically, this is the chip that would have allowed it to emulate, hardware emulate different systems, different 8-bit systems, supposedly different 16-bit systems, and supposedly this is what they needed the $4 million for, was so they could emulate 16-bit systems. With the $2 million, it would only been 8-bit systems, supposedly. But they wanted him to do the work for free and pay him later, which doesn't make sense. And now Kev Tress, from what I understand, is a brilliant guy. He has worked with this stuff before, but he hadn't actually gotten a prototype working for this, or at least they. I guess the point is they didn't have a prototype, and that is why it was on Indiegogo instead of Kickstarter. They didn't have a prototype to show Kickstarter, and now this is a very important piece of the puzzle for the rest of the story. Is at this point it was revealed that they didn't have a prototype. Now I think at some point they had actually said that they didn't have a prototype. So, to me, at this point, they weren't flat out lying. Okay? They were just presenting the truth in a manner that omitted all the details that would have made people ask questions, unless they were kind of doing their own research, like, a lot of people were doing, and pointing this stuff out to me. And, I'm getting my information from this Atari Age forum, and also a lot of people on Facebook. At this point, the Retro VGS team on their Facebook page has started deleting out and removing comments that may have been negative. So, just the way they were acting, the whole team, not addressing any of the questions people had. Basically, hey, you ask them a question, why are you using this cheap Wii U controller rebranded as a retro controller? Why are you using that? Well, no, I can't answer that question. That kind of stuff. So this Indiegogo campaign got money initially, and then as people were realizing that they weren't really becoming forthcoming, and what the stuff was. I mean, we're upping the page, but it was just like the more stuff they posted didn't answer any questions, and in fact brought up more questions. So after they started losing money and everything, the campaign wasn't going the way they wanted it to go. They wanted to cancel the campaign. But what's funny is you can't cancel an Indiegogo campaign. So they were telling people to take their money back, because with Indiegogo as opposed to Kickstarter, Indiegogo takes your money right away. Now, there's two different ways that somebody doing the fundraising can do Indiegogo. They could do it where if the campaign isn't funded, they still get to keep the money. But the way this was set up was supposedly like Kickstarter, where they would have only gotten the money if it was funded successfully. Well, the thing was that, and also on Indiegogo, when you pledge, it takes your money right away, whereas at Kickstarter, they take your money at the end. So, I didn't pledge, but a lot of people did pledge. They were telling people to take their money back. Like, you have to actually go to Indiegogo and request your money back, and then it takes a couple days. So they were telling people, oh, no. This is not turning out the way we want it to. We're going to have to go back to the drawing board and take your money back, and nobody likes this $300, $350 price point. We're going to come up... It was pretty much well known by that point that they didn't have a prototype. So they said that they were going to come up with a prototype and come back and go from there. So it was funny. It was like this Indiegogo campaign was forced to run out its 45-day length that they had set up, and after 10 days they had called it quits. So for 35 extra days, this Indiegogo campaign just lingered, and it was kind of pathetic, really. So, after 10 days, when they said that they were going to do it, I put up another video, and that pretty much said that, a lot of stuff that I just said, in addition to, we knew that they didn't have a prototype. I'd been following the Atari Age thing, the forum, the thread, just really the thread. And, and I was still kind of interested in it. I was like, you know what? If they come back with a prototype and a really kick-ass Kickstarter, and maybe I'll be interested. Well, I just kind of like forgot about it. Months and months go by. I mean, this was September, and that was really the last thing I'd mentioned on my channel about it. So then, sometime early this year, I think it was early this year, they come out and say, oh, the Retro VGS is now going to be called the Coleco Chameleon. Somehow they had gotten the rights to use the Coleco name, so they had branding on it. So I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of interesting, that Coleco is interested, or at least the people that own the Coleco name is interested in it. And so all their pictures on their website and everything changed from this. It was funny because it was exactly the same picture. It was just that the retro logo on it was changed to Coleco Chameleon at first. So now, okay, they're a Coleco Chameleon, whatever. I'll wait and see what they do. Hopefully, they give it some time and they actually have a working prototype or whatever. And then they announced that they're going to have a working prototype at the New York Toy Fair. And this was sometime in February. And I'm like, oh, okay. And now at this point, I'm not really following it that much. But I see them post up a couple pictures on their Facebook page. And they're showing supposedly games running on it. And in the back of my mind, again, I'm not really digging in depth in this. On the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, so did they actually get a prototype working in a couple months? It seemed kind of far-fetched to me, but, what do I know? I wasn't really following this. And then a couple days, either during the toy fair or a couple days after it, there were some pictures posted on on their Facebook page by Mike Kennedy that showed some pretty damning evidence that what was actually on display at the New York Toy Fair was the guts of a Super Nintendo Junior or Mini Super Nintendo 2, just the guts of it, inside a Jaguar shell. And even though the shell wasn't clear, it was black, you could see a part of it sticking out, wrapped up in electrical tape. And it was clearly using the Nintendo AV connector in the back of it. This was, by the way, this was promised to have HDMI out. And they're using composite cables from a proprietary source, Nintendo. And they're also using a third-party Super Nintendo plug that has got this extra plug hanging off the back of it. So really identified by people as a generic plug that would have plugged in all Super Nintendo, would have plugged in Genesis and regular Nintendo from what I understand. Third-party thing. Not only that, but the before that even came to light, it was pretty clear that the system was on and working, but there was no power light on, and this could be due to the fact that the Super Nintendo Mini doesn't have a power light, and the power switch didn't work. They were literally plugging in and plugging the system out and in again to change games. Also, the cartridge, even though it kind of looked like a Jaguar cartridge at first, pretty damning evidence that it was really a Super Nintendo EverDrive, kind of with a front of a Jaguar shell plugged onto it. So at this point, it was all pretty damning evidence that they had lied, flat out lied, and flat out got caught in their lie, because these pictures that everybody was started to question disappeared from the Facebook page. And the only comment about this whole situation that we got was Mike Kennedy putting up a post on Facebook that said, "Oh, there's rumors that the Coleco Chameleon is just going to be a Super Nintendo clone." That's not the case, but that's clearly not what people were accusing him of. People were accusing him of using a Super Nintendo, guts of a Super Nintendo, a real Super Nintendo inside of a Jaguar shell, and passing that off as a prototype for a new system. And yeah, there's plenty of videos that show that this is pretty damning evidence, pretty of threads. Honestly, I'd say look up the channels I said earlier, Picky Old Gamer, Pat the NES Punk. They've got videos on there talking about this. There's just no way that I would believe that it's anything other than that. Now, at this point, all credibility for this team is gone, and they couldn't even fake convincingly a prototype system. All they really would need to do is put in a light, and that would have stopped, it wouldn't have made people investigate further. But I don't want to say that, they should have tried harder to hide that it wasn't a real prototype. But the fact is that they did a really poor job of covering up that it was a Super Nintendo Junior inside of Jaguar shell. I believe it 100% that that's what it was, even though it really can't be proven. And, we all know, people know. I mean, there were people defending that, no, it's not really. And aside from the Retro VGS team, Mike Kennedy and whatnot, there were people out there that were like, no, this is a system. It's got to be a prototype. I saw one of the videos of somebody defending this, and I'm like, how can you defend this? This is ridiculous. It's really fraud. It has to be fraudulent to go to a major event like that, say this is my system, this is a prototype of my system, but have a Super Nintendo inside of it. The evidence is damning. But there wasn't one shred of... They didn't come out and say, no, that's not what it is. Here's what the board really looks like. No, they totally ignored all allegations. Now, at this point, I was done with it. I'm like, you know what? These people can't be trusted at all. It doesn't matter if they come up with a new Kickstarter. I was still looking forward to the Kickstarter to see what they would have put on the Kickstarter. And I would have made a video on that. But... but that... As much as that makes me laugh, what they did next, really, the fact that they're just lying. Now, the next thing they did really put it into the realm of what the hell is going in their minds. I guess to prove, okay, well, before this happened, they had a, they came out and said, what did they say? They said something like, we're not going to do a Kickstarter anymore because of people were interested in investing in from the New York Toy Fair. I was like, really? Some people saw your Super Nintendo and a Jaguar shell and decided that that was good enough to fund you some money. Okay, whatever. You're not doing a Kickstarter. I guess I won't make a video on this then. But then, I don't know if these pictures happened before or after. So I think it happened after. They put up some pictures to prove that they had a prototype. So they're like, okay, we got to prove that we have a prototype. So they put up a picture of a Coleco Chameleon. Seriously, this makes me laugh just thinking about it. In a clear shell with a cartridge in it that says prototype. And there's clearly some circuit board in there. Okay. And by the way, this whole Super Nintendo and a Jaguar shell case, that was emulated by some other people. And you put the photos side by side, it was a clear match. So, but this board didn't look like a Super Nintendo board. And there was a light on in it. And the light was, this was like a week ago at this point, I think. But the light wasn't anywhere near the power light. And they were like, this is our prototype. And then they had like a television with a static image of like the menu screen for their EverDrive cart, let's be honest. So I'm like, what the hell is this? I was really confused because it's like, okay, wait. This is clearly not the same thing that they were showing off at the Toy Fair, because I don't know, because they had, did they have Super Nintendo controllers? No, they had a USB controller, like, hardwired in. I think it was either a USB controller or they really did have a Super Nintendo controller. I don't know if it was going in there or not. I'm not looking at the picture right now, but the main focus of this was that board. And, so Kevtris, okay, this was the guy I talked about earlier who's originally working with them, and in September, and then immediately after the Indiegogo started, he apparently, this is from what I understand, he identified what was in there could not have been a game system, and he identified it as something being video related, just video related. So within 3 days, I guess the people at Atari Age had scoured the internet and to figure out what that board was. And it turned out to be a capture card of some sort. Really, a PCI capture card that they had just laid into the shell, propped a cartridge on top of it, and they I swear to you, this all sounds like totally made up in a bad story, but they took the shell, put a capture card, a video capture card into it, and Pat said, "This is our prototype." And just, I guess the signal from the TV is coming from somewhere else, because you don't really see any cords coming out of the back of the system. And they took some pictures of this. And then, it took them people at Atari Age 3 days to figure this out. Exactly which capture card it was. And we see the pictures side by side. It's pretty damning. It looks exactly like it. And I'm like, yeah, well, this makes a lot more sense to me based on their behavior. This makes a lot more sense to me than them automatically, magically having a prototype. So they threw it. So then this started off this trend. There's a thread on Atari Age right now where it's like the Jaguar shell with just random stuff thrown into it, and that's the Coleco Chameleon. But really, who at this point can trust these people? Who? This is insane for anybody to follow along with this anymore. And this is where I'm coming in and I'm saying, don't support this at all. In fact, with the Super Nintendo thing, I should have came out and just said, don't support them anymore. They're just flat out lying. But now they're getting beyond ridiculous with these lies, okay? It's beyond ridiculous. I don't see how anybody can defend this any further. It's so clear-cut that nobody should be supporting this anymore. And in matter of fact, the people that own the Coleco name have stated on their Facebook page, the Coleco Facebook page, that they will be requesting the prototype for this Coleco Chameleon that they supposedly have within 7 days to have their engineers go over it. Now, do they really have engineers? I don't know. This is something they said. They want to see the prototype. That's the bottom line. They want to see the prototype within 7 days. And if they don't see the prototype, or the prototype is not what is promised, they're going to pull the Coleco name. So that's where they are standing right now. This is right where we are right now, 28 minutes into this video. I realize it's a long video, but I wanted to go over it from the start until to the point we get at now, where the whole thing's gonna explode. It's gonna explode big time, and anybody involved in this Retro VGS / Coleco Chameleon, it's not good for them. I think somebody even from the Retro VGS magazine had submitted their resignation, and I think it was due to this. Yes, the Retro magazine is run by the same guy who's running this Retro VGS, Mike Kennedy, and also Game Gavel. So that's the kind of guy that is running Game Gavel as well. A guy who's willing to put a video capture card for a computer inside of a Jaguar shell and say that that's a prototype for a brand new system. That is the character. I mean, Mike Kennedy had a good reputation before all this. Even after the failed Indiegogo, I would have given him the benefit of the doubt. But when you start putting Super Nintendos into a Jaguar shell, calling it a prototype for a new system, and taking it to a major event and saying, this is what this is mine, you're flat out lying. And you might have the chance to earn my respect back later if you do something good. But now, when you're putting a capture card inside of a Jaguar shell and calling it a new system, you cannot get my respect back at all. Stay away. I'm going to stay away from everything this guy does. He does not deserve anything at this point. He's just flat. Maybe if he comes out and admits the whole thing was a lie. I think he started out with good intentions, but then Kev Trift left. He was demanding pretty much work for nothing. Give me the work now, I'll pay you later. That's pretty much what he was demanding. I think that's what snowballed this whole thing. And he just does not want to admit he was wrong. This is like sitcom territory here. Where, like, the IT crowd, where they said that the internet was in this box. Be careful with the internet. And people believed them. Don't take photographs of the internet. It doesn't like having photographs being taken. That's where we are right now. This whole thing is going to explode. And I cannot. Oh, wait. Leo DS. Let me put a link to his channel, too. I'm not subscribed to him, but he has said some, pretty much just a lot of the same stuff that Peaky Old Gamer has about the Retro VGS. They're pretty much the first ones coming out with the news. More in depth, I would go Pat the NES Punk. But, holy crap. I might put out another video on this. See, I'm not a news channel. I don't want to report the news. But I was interested in this, and I had put up videos on it before. And I kind of want to just follow up what was going on with it. The answer is garbage. I know people were saying that it was garbage from the get-go, but to me, it was something I would have been interested in. But I don't think I could. I am totally convinced that this team, even if they had all the money in the world, could not produce the product that they were promising. There's absolutely no way. And I guarantee very shortly the whole situation to explode. And I think at this point I'm repeating myself, so. This is the capture card in the Jaguar shell. I swear it's the kind of thing that my brain would break if I didn't laugh about it. That's like cartoon territory. That's something that would happen in a cartoon. Anyway, see y'all next time.